Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we're jamming with the toots. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellis, joined as always by my co-host Mark Mitchell. Mark, how's it going?
Going great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We tasted a little bit of the Super Mario cereal.
Mm-hmm. Ate it dry.
Ate it dry, yes.
Which is doing it a disservice. I had a bowl of it earlier today. And it takes on a different character in milk.
Oh, like an improved character?
Yeah, I mean it is like Lucky Charms in that like you don't really want to eat those marshmallows without them being like a little bit moist.
Yeah. But I find with any of this sugary cereal, it's all about the correct milk to, I guess, any cereal. It's like the correct milk to cereal ratio.
Yeah.
Where you want it to be wet. You want it to be splashed, but you don't necessarily, I don't want it soaked.
You don't want it swimming,
yes.
Right? I'm a little bit more okay with that. I don't know why. I think I just like, as a kid, I ate cereal a ton as a kid, and I guess I don't really do it that much now. But when I do now, I just sort of eat it as though I was a child, and I just pour a bunch of milk in there, and I eat until the cereal's gone, and then I drink the milk. That sugary milk.
There's no polite way to eat cereal.
No. Also, maybe ties back to our conversation on Tuesday about Labo, but there's a lot of cool, fun stuff on the box for Super Mario cereal. There's a fun maze. There are trivia questions. It made both of us feel like we were 8 again, looking at the back of a box of Honey Nut Cheerios and like, helping the bee find his pirate treasure or whatever.
Yeah, cereal is rarely fun nowadays. It's important. It's all about eating.
That's right.
Nutritionally, and
it's the most important meal of the day.
So yeah, still a great gift. Thank you, Patrick.
You are welcome. If you would like a gift from Patrick in the form of my copy of Sonic Forces that you can borrow, you can participate in our Sonic Forces borrowing program by emailing your address to Nintendo Cartridge Society
at gmail.com.
And I send you my copy of Sonic Forces on the Nintendo Switch. You play it or don't play it for as long as you want, and then send it on back to me. You owe me nothing in terms of money or obligation, nothing. If you want to just send it right back and never contact me again, great.
And after playing Sonic Forces, that may be how you feel.
Yeah, you may be like, who is this weirdo that paid money for this game, paid further money to send it across the globe for other people to play? You don't want to be in business with that guy. That's a shady character.
But if you do want to be in business with them,
right. Shoot us an email with your address, and we'll send it right over.
Or rate and review us on iTunes. And by iTunes, I of course mean Apple Podcasts.
Right. Why can we say one and not the other?
I don't know.
Mark, I don't.
Patrick, don't ask these sort of questions.
Okay. Whew. And follow us on Twitter. We're at NinCart Society, and check us out on Facebook. The page is just Nintendo Cartridge Society because we're not monsters. We want to keep things simple. However, we are monsters because our topic of the show is a widely derided Wii game that came out 8 years ago.
10 years ago.
10 years ago.
2008.
I apologize. Mark, let's get into our main topic of the day. So we are talking about Wii music. Mark, why are we doing this? Why would we do this to ourselves?
Well, like we said, it is Wii Music's 10th anniversary.
You're right.
In October of 2018.
Yeah.
I have never played Wii Music.
Yeah, neither had I.
And the only thing I really knew about it was all the derision it received.
Yeah.
Around its announcement and its release.
Yeah, and kind of just knowing it as a weird little flop on the Wii that it's not. We were talking about this, that like what we will never see a like Wii branded game again.
And they sold so much.
And there were so many of them. Like if you sitting in your car right now, wherever you are listening to this, how many Wii games do you think there are?
Like in the Wii series.
In the Wii series. So we're talking, Wii Sports. And obviously Wii Music, you've got 2. Quick, try and figure out how many there are. There are 13 of these games. 13!
Yeah. Even after we just went through the list, I don't know that I could name 10 of them.
Well, one of them wasn't released in the States. It's a like Wii Karaoke U. I think maybe there's a U in there. But so yeah, this is a weird little relic that's who knows how long they're going to be stuck on the Wii family of systems. But so I think one of the reasons that we wanted to explore Wii Music is that with the announcement of Labo, Labo is definitely Nintendo trying something different and like a new way to like play and interact with the software and hardware that you have in your home already. And that seems a lot like Wii Music in some ways, right? That they have this thing that's out there that that everyone has. Your grandma has a Wii, and here's a new way for everyone who has one to interact with it.
I also think like in the historical context, you have to remember that in 2008, these like music rhythm games were all the rage.
Yeah, great point.
Like Guitar Hero and Rock Band had either come out at this point or was would be released in the next year or so. It was, everybody had plastic guitars, everybody had plastic drum kits, and in the way that Nintendo does, they were looking at these different games and trying to come up with a Nintendo spin on it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what Wii Music was.
Yeah, so the Rock Band games came out in 2007. So
it was out. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was out. All of these like the big boys had already like taken over these wildly popular like rhythm games.
Yeah, it became like an arms race.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, between Rock Band and Guitar Hero, yeah. And then Nintendo's like, we've got something a little different. Okay, we've got to play the concert. This is in quotes. I'm using scare quotes here, which don't read on mic. I apologize. That Nintendo did at the E3 that announced Wii Music.
Yeah, and this is an infamous E3 for Nintendo.
Yeah, they were real bad this year. And we haven't quite gotten to what our impressions are of actually like spending time with the game, but this is the kind of thing that we were exposed to in the lead up to it, and sort of all we knew about the game. So here is, on stage is Miyamoto and Bill Trinan, a young Bill Trinan translating for him, and a couple other Nintendo Treehouse members who are, Mark, how did you phrase it?
I don't remember.
I believe you said something along the lines of people being paid to enjoy something, or to make it look as though they are enjoying something. So they're playing the Super Mario Brothers theme here
in Wii Music, and it has the air of desperation.
A total air of desperation, and doesn't sound great. So here it is.
All right, bring the house down, guys.
Oh boy. just totally falling apart
It
here.
just sounds bad. And what you can't see is they are, like they have to pretend to enjoy it. And so, Wii Music does not look fun to play.
No, because you're just like waving your arms around. It's all motion control,
Or
basically.
not the way that they are playing it, because they're like doing the trumpet, which really all you need to do is push the 1 or 2 button on the Wiimote.
Yeah.
But they, for PR have to pantomime actually playing a trumpet, which looks ridiculous.
Right. Well, and the game is obviously doing it has these different control schemes for each instrument. Not each instrument. There are over 50 instruments in the thing. But a couple different play styles that require you to, either push buttons or waggle around. And it's all in an effort to sort of like simulate the actual like feel of playing the instrument. So like you're supposed to hold for a trumpet, for example, like Mark was saying, you push the 1 and 2 buttons, but you're supposed to basically hold the Wii remote backwards. So the top or the front of it, like, I don't know, the part with the camera is facing your mouth, and then you're, fingering the 2 buttons like they were the valves on the trumpet. But, you can hold it any way you want and just push the buttons, and you have more accuracy that way. And some of the other play modes don't allow you that kind of like hyper accuracy. So like they're sorry, I'm getting slacked here. I'm turning that off. There are like string instruments where you have to move your arm in the direction of like the bow movement, and you have to push down on the trigger of the Wii remote, the B button, to like make it read that. And then there are like strumming instruments where you have to that's all based on like a shaking of the Wii remote. And then there's the piano type, which is just you've got a Wii remote and a nunchuck, and you're just kind of shaking them both. And each shake means like a hit on the instrument. So in every one of these cases where it's based on motion controls, accuracy is an issue, which is
bad.
It's bad, which is why you hear a lot of rhythmic sloppiness in the performance that we just heard. It's hard to make that marimba. I mean, you're doing Super Mario Brothers. If you can't go dot 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 in perfect accuracy, it doesn't make any sense, right? So anyway, this is what we know about this game when we get into it. I don't know, Mark. What were your like expectations when like we turned it on and started like going through the tutorial?
Well, we've purchased games before with the intent to play them and talk about them, and after 5 minutes, we're like, "Oh, we're done. I don't want to play this anymore."
Right. This is sort of the case with Zombies Ate My Neighbors, where like we played it for maybe a half an hour, and then we're like, we're not going to be able to do a whole episode about this.
And like Zombie U,
yeah,
like
that
same
was
sort of
one.
thing. Like we played it for a little bit, and we're like, okay, but with Wii Music, first of all, I think I should just say that I was really pleasantly surprised.
Oh yeah, it should be noted, Mark and I ended up playing Wii Music all afternoon,
like 8 hours straight.
Yeah, really enjoyed ourselves, and we created 2 little pieces of music that we will play at some point. Hey, they're not perfect, but neither is this game, and we had a bunch of fun playing it together. So, I mean, I feel like all we've done up to the point where right now we said we enjoyed it, was all we've done is complain about it. So what do we like about this game? What do we think is cool?
Well, one thing that I think is cool is that I feel like it did a really good job of easing you into the game and like metering out information in a way that at the beginning you're like, yeah, okay, I get it. Like I think the play experience we had over those 8 hours was the play experience that was intended, where you see it and you're like, oh, this is very basic and like shallow, and it's like, oh, there's some mini games and I can play Daydream Believer or whatever. And then as you like get into it more and more and you explore it, you begin to see where there is room for that customization
and
like
for
that.
like actual creativity.
Yeah,
because like the way the game like kind of shepherds you through it. First of all, it does spend too much time on like, Suzuki Book One style, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, or the Bach Minuet in G, and all of these like very basic. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we recorded Twinkle 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 Little Star and Do Re Mi from Sound of Music,
and not by choice.
No,
by like those were the that's what the game chose for you to do.
Yeah. And so like, it'll give you one of these pieces of music and at first you're just like playing one instrument along with it. And I mean we explained a little bit at like how the inputs work, but like, obviously you're not controlling the pitch of what you're playing. Most of what you're doing is just triggering the playing of a note.
Yeah, so like this works differently from a Rock Band or Guitar Hero style game where that is all about hitting notes at the correct time.
Yeah.
To make the song sound right. Wii Music is a little bit different in that what you're kind of doing is it's more just like queuing up the next note. No matter when you play it, a note will like a note will sound. And
right.
So if you want the song to sound correct, there are times when you have to play it, but it also makes it so there's room for improvisation.
Right. So like when Mark says sound correct, he means like sound like the recording that you're familiar with or whatever. But if you've got a run of quarter notes and you decide to play eighth notes, you play twice as fast, the game fills in appropriate notes for you. So it's got to just all be based. It's all MIDI instruments, of course. There'd be no way to do this with like actual samples, I guess. But all if any time that you're playing, there is an appropriate note that it could cue, and it does. So as you're playing violin or playing the marimba, and you start to like go nuts and play a bunch of notes, even though there is no part in the melody here or whatever, it will find a note that it's not, it's still going to, maybe it's not sound like the piece of music that you're familiar with, but like harmonically it's going to make sense. Which is a cool little like bit of like technology or like workaround, whatever, that Nintendo discovered for this thing. But so anyway, most songs are broken up into 6 different like musical, what do they call it? Like they don't call them instruments, but like the different parts that you can play. Maybe parts is it. There's a melody part, a harmony part, a chords part, a bass part, and 2 percussion parts. And you can, when you bring up a song, we'll say Twinkle Twinkle Little Star because the game insisted on saying Twinkle Twinkle Little Star over and over again. You can pick a different instrument for any of those tracks and like basically record it with the full band playing. And Mark and I were playing together, so we would kind of go through 2 tracks at a time. Mark would pick one and I would pick another, and we'd sort of play along however we thought was going to be fun, and then could like go back through with our 2 performances saved as like 2 other tracks, and trying out different instruments, trying out different things to like try and make it sound cool. And cool's tough with this, right? Because there's a lot of dumb music in here, and like I said, MIDI instruments, so like nothing sounds not nothing. There's some really cool sounding instruments in here, right?
But it always like, even when played the best possible, it never sounds quite right. Like, because if you're using something like a violin, each time you play a new note, the sample like starts over, for lack of a better term, and so there's no it's not a very graceful changeover from one note to the other. It all feels very stop and go.
Yeah, I mean, and it feels very digital in that way because it is. One of the big like problems with MIDI instruments is that anything that has like an active sustain is not going to sound the way it does. Like if you're playing a trumpet and you're holding out a long note, you can like put energy behind it or if you're singing, or if you're playing violin, all of these things that aren't just like an attack and then a fade. MIDI can't replicate that. So yeah, it doesn't even something played perfectly is still gonna sound like a bunch of MIDI instruments, but that's what it is.
But in the beginning, you're
Yeah.
introduced to like to like 5 songs basically.
Yeah.
And one of the downsides of Wii Music in general is that the song selection is just not any good.
Yeah, it is largely no good. And there are a handful of like cool classical pieces and
A couple of good pop songs.
yeah, I mean like the pop songs that we gravitated to were like "Wake Me Up Before You Go Go."
September was pretty good.
September is pretty good. Every Breath You Take. Material Girl, which I think we ended up not playing. Yeah, and
but otherwise, there's a lot of like Happy Birthday.
right. Oh, Christmas Tree.
Well, you're like, who? It's
Who
not
is
very
this
fun.
for? Right.
Yeah.
And also some of those have like kind of weird arrangements too, where they want to put a rock arrangement behind something, and you're like, whoa, why is there? You'll hear in one of the pieces that we put together where it's like, this is weird. There are weird instruments here, and like we tweaked it for sure, but like some of the weird bones are built into this thing.
I think my general thought on Wii Music was that I had a lot of fun playing it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, ended up having a ton of fun. And if nothing else, I just wish that we had had more iterations of this that opened up like the customization options.
Yeah, so we were talking about how maybe this game was a little bit like ahead of its time. It does have the ability to and also this is something that was just like not clear to me, that it kind of works as a little bit of a creative recording studio in totally dumbed down ways, but like that you can work on something and like create your own arrangements of these pieces, by subbing out different instruments, by holding instruments back, by playing some a little bit more, and then you can share them as videos, and you can share those videos with other people who are playing Wii Music, and then they can mess with them and send them back to you. So like it's got a very like, it could at any rate, there's nothing that I had read at the time or that I knew have this sort of like collaborative over distances where like I'm working on a piece of music, then I send it to my buddy Pete and he works on it and then sends it back to me. Like, we could write a postal service record that way.
Well, except
you
as long as it featured "Oh Christmas Tree," "Happy Birthday," and "Material Girl," because that is like one of the another one of the limitations is that you can't, the way Wii Music is set up, where you are playing notes along with a pre-recorded track, means that you couldn't just create something.
Right.
Wii Music.
You can only really riff on this existing music. But I do think that there is a lot of room for creativity within that. And I mean, just the idea of this sort of like creative suite and like sharing things like that, in 2008, I mean, that wasn't how we were using like social, like I just think about if this were now and you could make a video and then like tweet it or send it to Instagram right away, like just how cool that would be.
Yeah, because every time you record a song now, at the end of it, you like rate it on it from 0 to 100.
Right.
Which
popularity points.
Yes, it's a ranking that you set for yourself that seems to be just like, how much do you like this one that you just made? And then you can customize the record cover, the album cover.
Right. Which
is
always a Stone Cold classic.
Okay, it is remarkable how we loved every single one that we came up with.
Every single one.
No matter how little or how much effort we put into it.
Yeah.
But this is another area where I think like a Switch music were it to exist, would improve so much on this bare bones version, because there's only a handful of album cover options, and they all just say Wii Music. Like you don't get to title them. There's no song title.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get to come up with the band title yourself. But in like a more modern iteration of this game, you'd probably be able to do all those things and share them, like easily with the share button on the built into the Switch.
Yeah. So like the way that the sharing is like sort of limited to, just to other people who are playing Wii Music, is a bummer for sure. It's also this is something that we were talking about before. Like, man, it would be great if you could drop in on like a specific section. Like if you could scrub through a part of a song and just like find like, oh, here I mess up the drum a little bit. Let me replay just this part. Like a normal music editor.
Yeah, there's no option to do that. You have to play through the entire track.
Yeah.
But I think these are all like, for lack of a better term, like Pro Tools, right? Which
Sure.
is not really what Wii Music was designed to do.
Right, but I think that's where we actually started having fun with it.
I think that's totally true.
Yeah.
And so that's where this game is. I understand why it was like not even really misunderstood, but you're right. It's like
it seems like it was appropriately understood.
Yeah,
and we possibly were getting like something extra out of it,
right? Because it is very shallow, right? By the end of our 8 hours, we were kind of We were not kind of. I think we were definitely bumping up against the limits of what you could do,
or what you would want to do.
Yeah, like there were more songs we could have worked on arranging, but we could have like really strived for complete perfection and re-recorded tracks over and over and over.
Right, but that
it's not really rewarding.
Right, that would become tedious like actual recording is. It's super tedious. But like, yeah, and that's where something where like, I just want to fix these first 4 measures or whatever, or just the thing at the end that I messed up, would come in real handy. The thing that's so like interesting about it, it's all just based on MIDI tracks, right? Like you should be able to upload MIDI from other sources and like then mess with that. Like, do you know what I mean? That like there could be more than just these songs if people could just upload other MIDI tracks to it.
There are a lot of instruments to choose from.
Yeah.
There's like 50 that you end up like opening up.
Something along those lines, yeah.
And one thing that's cool is that there's one section of the game where it's like improvisation. I can't remember what like instrument improvisation or something
instrument
like that.
improv, I think is what it's
and called. It is just like a showroom of all those like 50 instruments that you can scroll through. And if you want to test it out, you start playing, and then slowly the game, seemingly built on what you are, like the rhythm that you are playing in, introduces other instruments that are like backing you up or are filling in different roles in the song, for lack of a better term. And as simple as this game maybe seems, it does seem like a lot of care went into the programming of instances like this, because like you were saying, the toots, which are the little Muppet-like characters that are always playing instruments that you aren't playing.
Yeah, not content to just have the ugly me's in there. They're like, we need another ugly character. Here are the toots.
Yeah, they're like your like the studio band.
Yeah.
And they do a really, to my mind, very remarkable job of creating a song that like matches what you are playing. Yeah.
And even as like when all of the instruments are like finally populated, that like you're playing and there's like a harmony part playing with you, and like you'll rest for a little bit and it'll like finish out the phrase. I don't know, it's very
it has that Nintendo finesse. Like it has that Nintendo attention to detail that you can tell that when they are making this music game, they threw themselves into making a music game that Nintendo would make.
Yeah, and I mean, in a lot of ways to its detriment, right? Like I
think
a not Nintendo company would be like, we need a better song library, which is, one of this. It's a Nintendo game, right? And there are like 3 big Nintendo music tracks in here: Mario Brothers, F-Zero, and The Legend of Zelda. Done, right? There's like a Wii. There's the Wii music. There's Wii Sports music in there. but like who cares about that? It like they have such a library of like iconic music and like they just don't use any of it.
At the so after we played this yesterday, I went home and like watched the E3 2008 presentation for Wii Music and like was just kind of reading about the reception that Wii Music had. And in the reveal at E3 2008, Miyamoto makes mention to the F-Zero track that you can play, and to me it felt palpable in the audience, the like reaction to that, where I understand what they were trying to do, where it's like F-Zero, you guys like F-Zero, we've put an F-Zero track in Wii Music, isn't that exciting? But you can just tell that everybody in that room is like, we wanted F-Zero.
Right, don't bring
like
F-Zero
it's almost
into
like a
this.
slap in the face.
Right.
And yeah, and that's kind of like the relationship or that's just kind of how everybody felt about this game.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, yeah, if you go back and look at reviews from the time this game came out, I believe IGN gave it a 5.
IGN gave it a 5. There are positive ones, like 1UP gave it an A-.
Oh, okay.
So there, and yeah, I would say like reception is mixed. Most people were just kind of like blah on it.
Right.
But some people really liked it and some people really hated it.
Yeah. And I think we are sort of in that A- like category. It's not something I feel like I'm going to be revisiting, especially now as like we're way past a point where we could use like the social aspect of it. But like I don't know, I really liked our time with it.
Yeah, I mean, really, like, I feel like a Switch, the brand is tainted now.
Yes.
They will, like,
brand taint.
any of the possibilities of this game, like the potential that this game had, will never be realized.
Yeah.
Or, I guess never say never, but it doesn't seem like it'll be realized anytime soon. But a Switch music could be so cool because part of the problem with that we talked about before is just like the inaccuracy of the controls.
Yeah.
And that's kind of just on the fact that the Wii motion controls were so basic.
It's partially that, but it's also that like they insisted on you using the motion controls. If there was a music game on Switch that would like just let you do button inputs, because for the most part, all that anything is, it doesn't matter what direction you're going or how you're doing it. It just matters whether you hit it or not. So like if you make that press A to play the drums, that would help accuracy immeasurably. And also, maybe there are times where like you just want that snap to grid of like I want it. What note you think I'm playing here. The rhythm that I'm trying to play. Just fix it for me. If you're not interested in actually like trying to play the game as a rhythm game, which I think because it doesn't really keep score or anything, that it doesn't work as a rhythm game. It works as like a music laboratory.
And it's not even all that interested in surfacing the rhythm you're supposed to be keeping.
Yeah, exactly. You have to, if you want to see the notes that you're supposed to be playing, you have to like bring it up. You can push the minus button and it brings up, when you should be pushing or activating the instrument.
And they're like bouncing notes that help you keep the rhythm, but they really just act more as a metronome than like any indication as to when you should be playing.
Yeah, and a weird metronome at that, because they indicate their beat by jumping, and so they land on the beat.
Yeah, they indicate the beat by landing, but they're jumping all the time.
They also jump, right? So it's very confusing, and so there are obviously a lot of things that could be ironed out. One of the things that you and I talked about, just sort of talking about the Nintendo games that like foster creativity. Mario Maker is a game that we've been talking about. Like, will that ever come to Switch? It's weird that it's more or less trapped on the Wii U. I know there was a 3DS one, but like that, if there were a more like robust version of Super Mario Maker that were to come out on the Switch, if there was like a music component to it, where you could edit the music tracks using, similar features to Wii Music, and then like have that associated with, your level, or if people can string together lots of levels into worlds, if there's like an overworld map and you could take the dun 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 and redo it with different instruments, or like just change little things here and there. Man, I think that would be cool. Especially like if you could just like do those tracks and sort of like upload them to the, I was gonna say cloud, but that's short-sighted. Just wherever like people are like taking resources from to make Mario Maker levels, and just make it more of a holistic, creative environment, kind of like what Dreams on PlayStation is looking like it's gonna be. Like it seems like there's a way to like make these tools more robust and give them a context without losing the like Nintendo-iness of it, to really be cool. And I think that's most of what you and I were responding to.
Yeah, absolutely.
This idea that the game could be more than it actually is. So I mean, yeah, maybe A- for like extra dreaming about it. Yeah, I don't know. Anything else to add about like our experience playing it on Saturday?
No, I think other than just how surprised I was hearing, or it had such a toxic reputation.
Yeah.
That before we played, I had such low expectations, and but I don't think I enjoyed it because I had low expectations.
Right.
I think it's maybe unfairly maligned.
Yeah, for sure. And especially if you've got like someone who wants to explore this game with you, I could see where doing it in isolation by yourself wouldn't be a ton of fun.
And it's not a matter of like you get as much out of it as you want, because that's not true. There's a hard limit on what you can do in this game. But that doesn't mean it's without merit.
Also, check it out. If you've got something that'll play Wii games, you can go buy this game from GameStop for $3.
Yeah.
$3. $5 if you wanted to have a case. All right. Mark, what do you say we take a break, we come back, and we'll play some of the music that we created?
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool. Okay, we're back, and we've got we how many of these videos did we make? Like 20?
Oh yeah, because do you save a video every time? Is there an option to not save a video? I can't even remember. We're always saving them.
Yeah, we saved just about everything.
100 points for most everything.
I went through today and like took away from all of them that weren't these two that we wanted to feature tonight, because you can sort by what has the most points. It would be nice to know that that's what the points are for when you're doing it. But so here's one that we did that was the Police's Every Breath You Take.
Yeah. So
Okay,
no. I just wanted to like explain what was going on.
Yes, please.
So we like spent maybe too much time working on arrangements.
Yes.
For a couple of these songs, and after we had done that, we were like, oh, we wish there was a way to share this, and Patrick found a way.
Oh yes, you want to explain the contraption that
cool.
I have here? So we produce the show live, so any of the music cues that you hear, I'm playing from my computer into our mixing equipment. And I was like, man, if only there were a way to get the audio from the TV. Turns out you can play any Wii game on the Wii U game tablet, gamepad. So that's what we're doing right now. I've got our aux cord going right into the Wii U gamepad.
Just into like the headphone jack.
Yeah,
right?
just into the headphone jack. And I'm controlling it with a Wii remote, which is weird. I mean, you just heard it beep a little bit there. It's just it's weird to be using a Wii remote on the gamepad. It seems like it's such a tiny TV.
But it's cool that we'll be able to share, that we found a way like to share without having to use Wii Connect 24.
Yeah. Oh, Wii Connect 24.
R.I.P.
All right. And so what you're about to hear is rhythmically imprecise. But we had fun putting together this arrangement. So we're subjecting you to it. All right, Mark. I believe your request on that one was that we make it sound like Band of Horses.
Yeah, I think that was the goal. Yeah, so you can see that pretty much no matter how much craft you put into Wii Music, all of your songs will kind of turn out like junior high orchestra struggling through
Yeah.
a concert.
Yeah, and part of that is just the whole like you don't really have any control over accuracy.
Yeah.
You know, there I was playing that banjo part, that sort of like constant eighth notes. And like the fact that it was ever right was a miracle.
Yeah, it like with the Wii remotes especially, it just felt like sometimes it would not register
Yeah.
when you're playing, and other
sometimes
times it would like
register too.
yeah, it would like double up real fast,
Yeah.
and it just felt out of control.
But so like that's a pretty good example of how we took all of the existing parts, and you know, sometimes the that banjo part was holding back. Sometimes it was playing more notes than you would expect from the accompaniment part. But for the most part, we were just sort of replacing instruments with other instruments that we thought would sound kind of cool. We had the violin on the melody and the NES horn on the chord part, which again we like held off on for kind of a while. But it still largely sounds like and has a lot of like the same textures as the police song, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty recognizable. So this next one that we did is anything but. So we took a little bit from the they call it From the New World. It's from the Dvorak New World Symphony, the second or third movement. It's basically the English horn part that's super pretty, and maybe we should find a clip of afterwards so people know what piece of music this is. Because we messed with it until it was almost unrecognizable, right? You want to talk a little bit about like why we chose what we chose here?
I don't even really remember.
You don't remember?
But we
Yeah.
like we stripped a lot of it away.
Yeah.
Right? Because you don't have to use each of the 6 parts.
Yeah.
If you don't want to. And then we just kind of went through the different instruments that are available and just spent a little bit of time messing around, seeing different like sound textures, what sounded interesting together. Because there are like vocals. You can be a rapper. You can be a black belt that goes like, huh, huh.
Yeah.
You can be a cat.
Yeah, and you're gonna hear the beatboxer in this in this arrangement here,
which took a couple of tries.
Yeah, but
to get like sounding like it does, because again the Wiimote wanted to register it when we didn't want it to register.
Yeah, exactly. So you know, and again, like you know, Mark and I have never made music together before. And you know, like I obviously have training as a musician. So I mean, it's just interesting to consider that like this is the kind of thing where obviously we're way limited in what we can do, but we can still work on something creatively together. And is super fun for that reason. So here I'm going to try to cue this up now, and here we go. So that's what we did with that piece of music. Which, I mean, like, I don't know. That feels like a genuine, like, creative effort, right? Like, we made it sound so weird, but, like, kind of cool, too.
Yeah, and it was fun to do. It was fun to experiment with the different sounds available and see what we liked and see what we didn't like. Yeah, like, I felt a sense of accomplishment when we pulled it off.
Yeah. I pulled up a video. I don't know if this is gonna actually be what I want it to be, but I think it'll be the solo that the English horn solo that we were just remixing there from the New World Symphony. Yeah, this will do nicely. So did we butcher that? Yeah.
I mean, are we or are we more like the Nuns in Sister Act, taking staid music and making it hip?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, we're like the Nuns in Sister Act. I think that's probably an apt comparison. There's also a bunch of little, like, mini games and stuff in Wii Music, which were fun but kind of disposable. Like a little handbell game. You can only play on 5 songs. You can conduct to, again, only 5 songs. But yeah, I feel like this game is neat, and has a lot of potential. But I feel like we'll never.
Yeah, absolutely. But I really was expecting to hate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to find it shallow and uninteresting. And I walked away really impressed.
All right, Mark, that closes out our discussion of Wii Music. And that'll do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Look, I'm sure that some of you guys played Wii Music.
Mm-hmm.
You're Nintendo fans, which means you probably punished yourself with this game right when it came out and saw all these bad reviews, right?
Right.
Someone must have played this thing when it came out.
It sold almost 3 million copies.
So I expect 3 million emails in our inbox by tomorrow. You can write to us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com and let us know what your experiences are of this game. Also, if you have any feedback about our songs, do we want to hear that, Mark?
Yeah, I do. And I also, if for some reason you are crazy cool and you have Wii Music songs,
crazy sexy cool,
yeah, exactly, that you have been holding on to, that you're dying to share, but Wii Connect 24 no longer exists, so you cannot. If you can find some way to send them to us,
yeah, absolutely,
I would love to hear them.
Yeah, and we could even play them on the show.
I would love to.
Man, I just feel like this thing was ahead of its time, right?
Yeah, or
10 years. I mean, like, now this is a totally commonplace thing where people will be like, yeah, send in your creations and we'll share them with whatever. Like, yeah, Just it did not come out at the right time and then lacked many features.
Yeah, it's a compromised product.
It is in fact a compromised product that, we enjoyed muchly. All right, we're going to get out of here. Follow us on Twitter. We're at Nincart Society. On Facebook, we are just Nintendo Cartridge Society. If you like Mark and Mine's opinions, we write about comic books on ReckonPunch.com. Olivia Duncan makes our logo. 8-Bit Betty makes our music. Here's his music right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Eller saying thanks for listening.
What's a Creative Podcast Network?
Hey, Spider-Man is one of the most popular superheroes in the world.
He's been in cartoons, he's been on the Electra Company, he has 7 movies, including 2 reboots.
But how many fans have gone back and read the stories where it all started?
That's where our podcast comes in. It's called Screw It, we're just going to talk about Spider-Man.
We go over the original Spider-Man comics that created the character.
We are Kevin and Will Hines. We're both brothers and comedians and earnest, lifelong fans of the comic.
We go over everything, the great stories, the compelling villains, the weird villains.
So check us out. Screw It, we're just going to talk about Spider-Man.
Screw it, we're just going to talk about Spider-Man.